Hey, welcome back to Reddit Cheating Wife, the best channel for cheating stories. Like and subscribe to the channel for cheating stories like this.
I, 32 male, am in love with my former sister-in-law, 27 female. I'm finally at the point where I can't take it any longer. I've been in love with this woman for a long time, maybe a couple of years, and I'm not sure whether I should end it or try to make anything with her. I met my ex-sister wives when I was 23 years old, and the connection grew swiftly, and by 26 I had a son and a daughter and had married. However, my ex-wife had an affair within months of our marriage, and to make matters worse, the man she strayed with had gotten her addicted to heroin. After I confronted her about it, she stated she was going to get help, but she instead fled in the middle of the night. I haven't heard from her in 4 years, and the last I heard, she is still with that guy and homeless in Las Vegas. I'm not sure how true that is, but with my emphasis on keeping it together for the kids, I don't have the time or desire to track her down after what she did. In the end, I got a divorce in my absence. After the fact, though, I had a really nice connection with my in-laws. Every other weekend, my kids stay with their grandparents on that side, and they still treat me like a son. I still go to Christmas parties and am well liked by the family. Nobody talks about my ex anymore, primarily to avoid worrying my children. My eldest, my son, is deeply affected by his mother's departure. He's now 9, and I had to get him therapy when he told me he wished his mother was dead. She had been verbally abusive at the end, when he was about 5 or 6 years old. Anyway, in the year following my ex's departure, her sister and her boyfriend began visiting the kids frequently. They knew I worked a lot and would babysit as practice since they wanted to have their own children. My kids adore them and have been spoiled by them, which I didn't mind because we could all use a little cheer. They married and were madly in love. Her spouse, on the other hand, was killed in a job accident shortly after the birth of their daughter. As one can expect, it has been tremendously difficult and unpleasant for everyone concerned. I followed my sister's lead and began taking her daughter to give her time to herself when things became too difficult to handle or she needed alone time. She's been in bereavement counseling for a few years, but she still wears her ring and says she can't picture ever dating again. I talked to her about him a lot, and she's come a long way, but she's still madly in love with him. I can't comprehend the suffering she's going through. We've become a more consistent presence in each other's life over the previous 2 years. My kids adore their aunt, and I invite her over for supper at least twice a week. My daughter and her daughter have become close and like spending time together, so they have sleepovers. I've moved on from my ex, but the thought of dating someone potentially hazardous as their mother has kept me out of the dating world. I'm not sure when it happened, but I gradually began to soften toward my Sil. She's a wonderful mother in light of what's happened to her. She's one of the nicest individuals I know, and her sense of humor constantly makes me smile and laugh. Then I realized I was physically attracted to her. I've always felt a little guilty about it because her late husband was a good friend, and she's obviously still in mourning, so I've kept it to myself. We've spent more time together since COVID began, since social alienation has caused us to lose contact with most other people. Nothing romantic has ever been addressed, and I try not to flirt, but last week after the kids went to bed, I made us a few drinks, not enough to be drunk on, but she said she'd rather spend the night, so I took her couch. This morning, I woke up to breakfast, and the 4 of us felt like the kind of family I've always wanted. She even kissed my forehead, which she doesn't usually do. I still didn't say anything, but when she went, I discovered my son in his room, calmly playing with his toys. I asked him if he was okay because he appeared upset. He tells me flatly, as only a child can, that he wishes Sil was his mother. I sat down with him and asked him why he felt that way, and he gave me a long list of reasons, including her being polite to him and the fact that she never screams at him. He enjoys seeing her at his grandparents' house, and she enjoys drawing pictures with him, something I had no idea they did. By the end, my heart, which was already fluttering for this woman, had become much more tense. When I sent them off with their grandparents on a visit, I tried to broach the matter with her parents to get a sense of how people would react. I made a joke about her and acting like a married couple at times, and they didn't laugh. They were kind of standoffish, nice, but either they know something or they don't approve. It's becoming too difficult for me to ignore or pretend it's not bothering me. I'm madly in love with her. Either I have to kill it and stop thinking about her, or I have to find a method to get through this position and tell her everything. If anyone out there has any advice on how to approach a widow, especially one who is married to a buddy, with this kind of aim, I'd be grateful. Story 2. I, male 31, caught my wife, female 36, cheating. We broke up but have to live together for the foreseeable. Need advice. We've been together for 9 years, married for 2.5 years, lived together for 7 years, and own 2 houses, one for her parents and one for ourselves. We don't have a lot of unsecured debt, £45k, $6.5k, on credit cards because I make £30,000, $40,000 and she makes £60,000, $80,000. We each have our own vehicle. There are no children. 2 canines, mine. Unfortunately, due to just living in the newer of the two residences for 18 months, there have been very few savings. I discovered my wife cheating on me for the second time in 10 months with the same guy last weekend. I swallowed my pride and forgave her the first time, and although we were happier, it took me a long time to begin to trust her again. For many reasons, she didn't stop contact with the guy as planned, and lo and behold, it occurred again 10 months later. I caught her red-handed this time, no denying it, and I have no intention of continuing the marriage. I've been digging into work and keeping myself busy all week, but the weekends have always been our time, so I knew it would hit me most on the weekend. I'm an accountant, and I've always used a spreadsheet to manage our money, which I update on a daily basis. I signed in last night and experimented with several scenarios, but I'm having trouble seeing the long term at the moment. We sat down and talked about finances, and we decided that for the time being, not much can change in terms of bills, so I devised a plan to pay off the credit cards, one over 3 months that isn't interest-free, and the other over 12 months that is. After the bills are paid, we'll both have much more disposable income than we've ever had, £900, $1,200 on my side and £1,700, $2,200 on hers. Unfortunately, this has been lengthy, but I merely wanted to emphasize that we are financially stable both together and separately, and that we do not have any dependent children. However, the real problem is that I don't have anywhere else to go. My parents live in a one-bedroom apartment, and her parents live in our old house, and due to medical issues, I have no intention of either A. removing my parents from their residence or B. bringing my wife into their home and irritating them. The point of this agreement was for them to be able to live in this house for the rest of their lives. I care about these people and don't want her daughter's actions to jeopardize that arrangement. For the time being, as a result of this, we are still residing in the same house. I'm staying in the spare bedroom, and the rest of the home is ours to use as we choose. That's a strange occurrence. We're almost back to our normal selves, but we're not eating or sleeping in the same place. Not that I'm bitter, for the time being. In fact, a large part of me expected her to do it again, so I'm relieved to no longer have to live with the suspicion and concern. Long term, however, I'm at a loss as to what I ought to do. Because I haven't eaten much for the past week, I've lost 5 pounds. So I'm curious if anyone else has been in a position comparable to mine. Could you perhaps suggest something I should be doing to better prepare myself for when things get unpleasant in this world? The only thing I have going for me is a free day pass to my gym, which I want to use today in the hopes that it would help me with my discipline and focus. Other than that, I'm completely at a loss. Please accept my apologies in advance for the length of this message and any spelling issues. I'm currently on the phone. Thank you for taking the time to read this. Update: I appreciate all of your suggestions, both good and bad. Even if part of it is unjustly heinous. I spoke with her parents, and they are ready to go in a few months, so I'm going to move back into my old house. I spoke with the ex, who was inebriated, and he was going to divide up the possessions, and I'd end up with the dogs. The remainder will be handled by lawyers. Thank you for reading my article. I grew a pair, and I have a buddy who is a defense lawyer, and I'm going to seek her for guidance on who to go to for divorce advice.